Hello everyone, welcome back to Trek a Day and a surprise episode I was not thinking I would be filming today. Well, this is a surprise. I am pretty much downright giddy right now. It feels weird. I normally watch the Strange New Worlds episodes the next day in the morning and then do my video. But we had a surprise, and episode 7, the Strange New Worlds crossover with Lower Decks, launched early. Just shocking. Noticed on Twitter randomly about 4 minutes before it went live, and checked out those old scientists, and I loved it. If you've been watching these videos, you know this is one of the ones that was teased early on that I was a little worried about, because this was a hard concept to pull off, and I wasn't certain it was going to really work out. I think part of it was the benefit of having Jonathan Frakes being the director. He seemed like the perfect choice as someone who, if you watch all his interviews and behind the scenes, someone with a very strong sense of humor and also obviously a deep understanding of Star Trek, both performing in it and directing. So that was a great choice, and I have to give it up to the writing and the performances in this episode overall, because everything worked out perfectly. I was afraid the tone and style of Lower Decks is so different from Strange New Worlds that things would clash and it just wouldn't mesh right and would feel awkward. Maybe the humor would feel far too frantic, but it wasn't. Things actually translated between the animation and the live action very smoothly. Both Boimler and Mariner, both actors, did a fantastic job with the transition to making their roles really come to life in live action in a way that felt so thrilling to see. Made me want to see the whole rest of Lower Decks in a live action version. It just worked so well. And it wasn't just a weird crossover cash-in comedy episode, even though it was very humorous. It wasn't just a goofball farce. It was an episode that had a lot of heart, a lot of looking to the past and hero worship, and the idea of meeting your heroes and seeing the reality and seeing them as real people, which is always hard to look back and see them as these perfected, idealized images you have in your mind, and then meeting the real thing. The idea of finding your place in the world, both looking to the future while respecting the past. So many themes that all played into this idea of stepping back in time and getting to experience an era that you studied and dreamed of. It's fantastic. I think it worked very well. You got the excitement of these characters visiting the crew of the Enterprise. It all just felt so genuine and heartwarming, and the entire thing was just, to me, it felt like an overwhelming celebration of the love of Star Trek. It felt like a fan moment. I felt like Boimler in this episode. That feeling that he had meeting these people really resonated with me, and I feel like that it was the emotion that shone through the most, was this appreciation for the franchise and its legacy, and it just worked to be an amazing comedic episode with a great heart. And I was so surprised by how well everything came together, and the switch between animation and live action I thought worked very well. I was really surprised to see the opening sequence then of Strange New Worlds animated, and a few little Lower Decks Easter eggs in there. I thought that worked very well. And I definitely was not expecting to see the cast of Strange New Worlds in the Lower Decks style animation at the end, and that worked, and it was not too overly goofy. It's a line that so easily could have been crossed, and I was so worried that's where it was going to go, and it never did. It all felt tonally correct, and it was fantastic. And it was fun too, because my wife is a fan of Lower Decks. She's really enjoyed that series. but she had not seen Strange New Worlds yet, and she actually sat and watched this with me, live, and that was a lot of fun too. I like watching things together. We both loved it. She was cracking up the whole time, and it just was overall a very genuinely fun experience. And I tend to be one who, as much as I love a lot of the more fun, loving, and humorous episodes of Star Trek, most of my favorites tend to be the more serious, dramatic episodes. As you've watched my top 100, there's a lot more of that in there. But I really think just the overall experience that I had with it, this is my favorite episode of Strange New Worlds. This replaces any of my other favorites from either season so far. It's my current favorite. And I think one of the things that I liked was that structurally and tonally, it reminded me of my favorite episode of all time, of all Star Trek. Trials and Tribulations from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. That's my favorite episode of the entire franchise. And while this wasn't as good as that, it, I think, mirrored that feeling that episode was going for. And I just thought it was fantastic. So I am now definitely looking forward to another very odd reveal that came to. There's going to be a musical episode of Strange New Worlds coming soon. And before watching this episode, just hearing that, I couldn't imagine that actually working and being any good. Even though I am a big fan of musicals, I love lots of Rodgers and Hammerstein. I love the Sound of Music. It's one of my favorite things. There's so much that I like, but I don't know. I couldn't picture that working, even though one of my favorite episodes of Xena is The Bittersweet. One of my favorite episodes of Buffy is a musical. Musical episodes can work in a show where it feels like it shouldn't, but sometimes if it's done right, it can. But after seeing how they pulled off this episode, it actually gives me hope that could actually be pulled off as well, and that'll be exciting if they can do that. So I am in a very good mood, very excited, because this was a brilliant episode. And then, of course, looking forward to now the 4th season of Lower Decks, which I really hope and feel like could be even better. I feel like the show overall was getting better as it went along, and this could really be a highlight season. So I am very excited, and this just genuinely put me in such a fantastic mood. If you have not seen it yet, because it was a surprise drop, hopefully you have before watching this video, because I structure these as someone who just watched these, and they are literally me just walked upstairs 2 minutes ago, turned the episode off, and just talk about my immediate feelings about the episode. And it was brilliant.